Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. It is week 4 of our Power of Now series. We're completing that. This book, written in the mid-late 90s, I think, which was 30 years ago, the 90s. I don't know how that happens. Somebody put something on Facebook the other day about the fact that, that the 70s and the 80s, when I grew up like in the 70s, we were only 20 years away from the 50s, and it felt to me like that was like centuries ago, and now the 70s are almost 50 years away. I think you're all ready to leave the building right now, aren't you? Time is moving. It's passing. And the loss of our beloved Boris makes it so clear. So many people this morning have been just saying how important it is that we tell each other what we mean to each other. We don't know when the last moment we'll get to do that. And that's what this beautiful teaching, the Power of Now, offers us, that if we can just be present, we have all that we need. In the present moment, we touch eternity, which is the true nature of our lives. Did you know that? I grew up in that dualistic, fundamentalist Christian world where, life begins at conception and that then goes on forever from that point. And depending on if you do it right or wrong, if you say the right prayer or not, whether you do the right behaviors or the wrong behaviors, the eternity is going to be a great place or not so good. That's the way I understood time. That's the way I understood eternity. But then when I came to this teaching, somebody somewhere early on said, you are living your eternal life right now. What? This is your eternal life. Now this is temporary. The body, you'll only have this body forever. But many spiritual teachers say that we will always have some physical form and expression of countless lifetimes and incarnations. But this one is lived in what's the word I'm looking for? Eternal life of God, right now. And how many times do we miss it? Because we're thinking about not right now, we're thinking about 10 years ago or 50, and we're thinking about 10 minutes from now or a year. That we're spending, how much time do we spend putting ourselves through emotional torture for something that hasn't even happened? Or is that just me? Are you all like ascended beyond that? Have you all? Yeah. I have spent so much of my now possible moments worrying about stuff that never, ever happened. I found 3 little internet gems that I want to share with you now. They relate to the power of now, I think. This one I thought was good. My toddler picked a short book tonight for bedtime, and it felt like my boss letting me go home early. Whoever said out of sight, out of mind, never had a spider disappear in the bedroom. Because, right, sometimes the power of now is not great when we're now. It's like, there's a spider in my bedroom. Okay, you got it. Oh, this is my favorite, though. And this is a little bit sexist, but it's funny, so I'm using it. If a man says he will fix it, he will. There's no need to remind him every 3 months. I love that. So I have 3 points in my message today. I've started doing this a little bit. I tell you what my points are so I can keep track myself. The first thing I want to talk about is form and essence. I'm talking about form and essence. The second thing I'm going to talk about is paradox and polarity. And the last thing I want to talk about is the lie of when. So let's talk about form and essence. Eckhart Tolle writes this in the book, The Power of Now. That's odd. There we go. And it's always questions and answers. And this comes from the later chapters of the book where they're talking about happiness and unhappiness. That's actually my talk title today. That happiness and unhappiness that's the experience that we have based upon conditions in the world. And the question was something like, well, if we're living a spiritual life, can't we just generate and manifest and demonstrate only good things from now on and just be done with it? And he says, and positive experiences, this is what Eckhart writes. Do you truly know what is positive and what is negative? Do you have the total picture? There have been many people for whom limitation, failure, loss, illness, or pain in whatever form turned out to be their greatest teacher. It taught them to let go of the false self-images and the superficial ego-dictated goals and desires. It gave them depth, humility, and compassion. It made them more real. Seen from a higher perspective, conditions are always positive, or to be more precise, they are neither positive nor negative. They are as they are. And when you live in complete acceptance of what is, which is the only sane way to live, there is no good or bad. No good or bad in your life anymore. There is only a higher good. That's the essence of the teaching right there. That all the stuff that we get upset about, all the stuff that we are in so much pain about, all the conditions that arise in the world that give us so much trouble, it's all happening for us, not to us. The universe will give you opportunity after opportunity to learn the deeper truth of who you are. For me, as I've shared many, many times, it came in my cosmic 2x4, you know that? How first the universe will try to get your attention by a gentle whisper in the ear. And then a gentle but persistent tap on the shoulder. And finally, a 2x4 upside the head. Well, addiction was my cosmic 2x4. That was me trying to live my life by the ego. And it ended not so well, except that this horrible, negative thing in my life turned out to be the doorway for a life of freedom and finding spiritual principles upon which I can live. And so, is it positive or negative? It just is. That's just part of my story. You have your own. You have your own conditions in your life that are just trying to bring you back, saying, sweetheart, come home. Come home to who you are. Let go of the attachment to form. Let go of the attachment to form. Find your essence. Alan Cohen's a wonderful writer and spiritual teacher, and I had the chance to do a retreat with him and our friend Mary Morrissey in Sedona a few years ago, and he tried to fix me up on a date with a friend of his in Nebraska, but anyway, nothing happened there. But Alan says this, when talking about our prayer life, we're trying to demonstrate, to manifest our good, he says this, pray for essence rather than form, because then the form will come from your essence. I know, me too, Joanne. That was like, that's big. See, I will spend all my spiritual coin, mental and spiritual coin, as Ernest Holmes calls it, on trying to get conditions the way I want them, and then I'll be happy, right? Isn't that the way that works? If I can just manipulate time and space and the fabric of reality to get it the way I want it, then problem's over, I'm happy. That's actually not the way it works. Now, we do teach manifestation technology in this church, and I do use it. But I have a strong intention to create the forms that I think will demonstrate my good, but I let it come from who I am, and I'm not attached to form. Because the form will come and the form will go. But my essence is eternal. And your essence is eternal, and it's different than mine. That's the beauty of this oneness. Even though that we are all one part of the one life of God, each of us is uniquely, irreplaceably, unrepeatably expressed in the image and the likeness of God. That's your essence. And we spend so much time, let me fix that. I spend so much time worrying about what you think of me, spend so much time worrying about the future and what is it going to look the way I need it to look. And what I need to be doing is being here. Release my attachment to form. Come home. What is it in my heart and soul that is desiring to be expressed and experienced now? That's how we get in touch with essence. That's how we begin to live in the power of now. Also from the book by Eckhart Tolle, it seems almost paradoxical. Yet when your inner dependency on form is gone, then the general conditions of your life, the outer forms, they tend to improve greatly. Isn't that weird? Florence Scovel Shinn wrote that wonderful book, The Game of Life, and How to Play It in like 1919, something like that. She has this great little affirmation. She says, "My ship comes in on a sea of don't care." And what she's teaching us is that our need to have it a certain way, our attachment to the form, is a block to our receiving our good. Let it be. Let it go. Let it come. Things, people, or conditions that you thought you needed for your happiness now come to you with no struggle or effort. And you are free to appreciate and enjoy them while they last. All those things, of course, will pass away. Cycles come and go. But with dependency gone, there is no fear of loss anymore. Life flows with ease. He did not say loss doesn't occur anymore. He says our fear of loss goes away. Do you get the distinction? We will lose everything. Everything that is a form. It's temporary. And our fear of losing it will block us from receiving and enjoying it while it's here. Essence and form. Seek to live your truest self. And how do you find out what that is? You pay attention. You got to get out of the future and the past and be here. I have a teacher, Kathy Hearn, who used to say, just ask yourself a simple question. What do I want? What do I want? Spend time writing that, journaling that, just sitting, and let it come from the intuitive, essential part of you. What is it that I want? Not in terms of the green car or the handsome boyfriend, but in terms of what's the kind of experience that I want to be having in my life? You know, I pushed ministry away as hard as I could. But when I started doing this practice of asking what I wanted, I realized, oh my gosh, that's what I'm wired to do. And here I am, better or worse, sorry, here I am. Because I got in touch with my essential nature. And it's a big secret, but I love people. And I love spiritual growth, my own and yours. When I got really clear about my essence, the form, beautiful form. Thank you, Reverend Howard, for inviting me to come here 14 years ago. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So now let's talk about paradox and polarity. David Hume, the Scottish philosopher, talked about the fallacy of is and ought. I'm not going to get into that. I heard a musician talk about it in a way that I think I can handle. The Avett Brothers, if you know their music, they're going to be out in Sugar Land this October. Wonderful folk rock band. And they were on a podcast with Kristen Bell's husband, Dax Shepard. If you don't like cussing, don't listen to that podcast. I'll just tell you that. And I don't remember which of the brothers was talking about the way, because they're spiritual. They don't do spiritual music per se, but that's the way they kind of live. And he said, well, you know, it really comes down to the tension between the is and the ought. That there is part of us that's just, well, this is what it is. It is what it is. And then there's also the part of us that thinks, well, it really ought to be like this. Well, here's the thing. In terms of my spiritual growth and my evolution, I don't want to accept it that this is just what it is, like it's not going to get better. That's giving up, not giving over. That kind of surrender is different. But that's just like, well, there's nothing I can do. I have no agency. I can't do anything. It is what it is. I don't want to live there. But my problem is that my ought is where my perfectionist gets hung up. It ought to be this way, and yesterday. It ought to be this way now, why isn't it? And then I make myself wrong because I don't want to be what it is, but I don't seem to be fully to be what I ought to be. And I think it was, I don't even remember which Avett brother it was, but he said, and the quality of my life is largely determined by the quality of that tension. And so I asked myself, what is the quality of the tension between my is and my ought? Can you feel that? And if you, like me, tend towards perfectionism, if you're feeling anxiety and self-criticism because you're not good enough, you need to come back a little bit more to the is side. And if you're feeling a lack of energy, like it's a hopelessness, you need to be moving towards the ought side because there's something in you that wants to grow, that wants to transform, that wants to be healed of those old beliefs that kept you trapped. But we're never going to be fully as we think we ought to be. But we also don't want to just live lying in the ditch of what is all the time. You can tell which one I'm a part of, that I tend to, this has got to be better than this. And I've been sharing for a long time that my healing around my perfectionism is to just simply make more space for my humanity. When I attended a recovery meeting yesterday, and this was the topic, and and I really thought there are a couple of steps of the 12 that talk about my character defects. And step 7 is we're humbly ask God to remove our defects of character. I saw that on the wall, and I thought, great, this is where those are all going to be gone. I'm going to learn the tools for all of my character flaws to go away. And that has not happened so far. Not yet. And so I was called on to share in the meeting, and I was reminded of an Al-Anon meeting years and years ago I went to, and there was a woman who shared, and she was also a member of the other group, and she said, we're flawed human beings. You want to know, if you think my problems are bad, you should see my solutions. We are deeply flawed as human beings, which is why we need a higher power. One of my favorite passages from the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verses 17 and 18. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from God, who is the Spirit. And this is the way it says part of this in the King James. But we all, with open face, beholding, as in a glass, the glory of God, are changed into the same image from glory to glory. We are going to keep growing. We're going to keep healing. And do not let the perfect be the enemy of the good in your life. Bless where you are right now and know you're going to keep growing. You're going to keep improving. You're going to keep healing. And when we have this unity perspective, this non-dual way of seeing life, I saw a testimonial yesterday, and you know about the ex-evangelicals? I found out I am one. It's people that were raised in the fundamentalist Christian tradition, but then have become ex-that. But there's a lot of folks who are doing what they call deconstructing their fundamentalist beliefs. And one mom was talking about how it changed her parenting to go from this dualistic worldview to a non-dual worldview. And she said she felt so sad for the way she had parented before that, because she would see her precious little toddler who did some toddler things as being beset by the devil, as being tempted into evil. Isn't that awful? But I think most of us were probably raised that way in some way or another, that just like when kids are bad, well, that's the devil. But she said, in this perspective, I've made so much space for her humanity and for my own. And for my own. Being human is great, and we are deeply flawed. How much space can we make for holding the spiritual truth of our perfection in God and allow the forms of our life to continue to change and evolve and grow. And self-forgiveness will make so much joy if we'll let her give your self-critic the day off. Just one day. Try that. Just start there. Give that inner critic a day off. So let's talk about the lie of when. As I mentioned, we miss so much of our now because we're thinking about when. When this happens, I'll be happy. When I accomplish this, then my life can start. And it's a lie, because your life is waiting for you right now. I'd like to read a poem by my favorite poet, Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. This one who has flung herself out of the grass. This one who is eating sugar from my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention. How to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? When Ken texted me 7:30 on Thursday morning, and he'd gotten a text from Boris's husband, Miguel, saying that Boris had passed away, had been taken to the ambulance, in an ambulance to the hospital at 2 a.m., was gone. And then a little later, Ken called and said, Miguel would like you to come. And so we, along with Miguel's other friend, we sat, the four of us, in the room where Boris's body still lay. I was able to say my goodbye to that form. We put our arms around each other and we just held on to each other and prayed. I don't have any regrets about the things that I did not get to say to my brother Boris, but I sure thought I would have more conversations. I sure did. I thought there would be more times that he and Ken and I stood on this stage and sang to you together. I thought I would have more of that, but I don't. This is the invitation. Live your life now. The thing that doesn't bring you joy, let it go. Ask, what do I want from my one precious and wild life? And begin to live into that, towards that, from that, now. This is the power of now. Join me in prayer, would you? Just breathe, just breathe. There's so much sadness in the room today, in my heart, and it's okay. We don't have to push it away. We can breathe through it and beneath it and around it. It's welcome here too. That the infinite good, the all that is life itself, that is spirit, that is God, is big enough to hold our sorrow and our loss. It is big enough to hold our fear and our anger. We can bring all of our humanity into this circle of God right here, right now. We can forgive. We can forgive others for the perceived harm that they have caused. We can forgive ourselves for being human and making mistakes. we can forgive right now. Now we can let them go. Now we can love ourselves exactly as we are today. And the deepest truth is that we are one with the life of God. We are expressions of that infinite potentiality. So this is not the end of our journey. We are just beginning in our eternal journey of God to discover more of the light that we are. And so we begin to release everything that stands in the way of our light, our judgment, our fear. We begin to see the energy and time that we have used in that way, that take us away from our joy, that take us away from our presence. So right now, we choose to live in freedom, to shine as children shine, to accept and love ourselves as we are. And then this, my brothers and sisters, frees us to love the world as it is in its brokenness and its pain. That we see beneath all of that is love. All of this comes from love. Love, the kind of love that creates galaxies from its own source of its own being. This is who we are. And so the word I speak for all within the sound of my voice in this moment is that we now live more presently, more available to life. We live now, here and now, in wholeness and freedom. How grateful I am, how good this is. We give thanks, we let it be, and so it is. Amen. So I don't know the last time that I told Boris that I loved him, but I've told him a lot. And I say it a lot. It gets weird, I know. I grew up in a little country Methodist church in Oklahoma, and at some point we had this young pastor from Oral Roberts University who came in and he just said, we're all just going to hug each other and tell each other we love each other. And some of those old World War II vets in that little church were resistant. But that became the way we did community. And I'm so grateful for it that I held Bill Allen's neck and I told him I loved him when I was a little kid. And he told me he loved me back. He was a hard man. That's why I say it, because I know the power of it. I don't know your whole story. I don't know your struggles, but I do know this. You need to be told that you're loved, and you are. So if no one else has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.